Okay, I think the entries have sort of slowed a little bit, so I'm just going to get us started. And as you all know, we appreciate your time so much. What an absolutely incredible showing for our policy briefing to kick off the year here with champions, long time and some new faces. And I just wanted to quickly say, any movement worth its salt, and as we all know, this one's worth that and all the fixins. It's not about me at all. It's not even really about Let's Grow Kids. It is about all of you. And so I'm going to keep this very short and we'll go right to the heart of it. I'm Allie Richards. It's my distinct honor and pleasure to be the CEO of Let's Grow Kids, also the mom of Bo and Wes, who I feel are growing up alongside this movement. And we're all greatly benefiting from their participation in a high quality childcare program, which we're so lucky to get into after a year almost of searching. So here we are, and here I am because they are at their childcare program today. And we're going to begin today by viewing our campaign video, the childcare campaign video. It's a very short video that launched when we released our 2022 legislative agenda. So without further ado, I'd like to cue up the video.
Before the pandemic, more than half of Vermont's youngest children didn't have access to the childcare they needed. Now the problem is even worse. And this is a problem that impacts all Vermonters, not just those of us with children. Because when working families can't find or afford high-quality childcare,
Technical difficulty. Let's see.
Parents can't work, which means they can't earn a living or contribute to Vermont's economy. Vermont businesses can't hire the employees they need or retain the employees they have, which means Vermont's economy can't recover or grow. Most importantly, too many children miss out on the strong start during the most essential years for healthy development. Vermonters need a high-quality childcare system that parents can afford and access. A system that meets the diverse needs of all Vermont's children and families. A system that's staffed by highly trained early childhood educators who are valued and properly compensated for their essential work.
The need is clear, and the time is now to solve this problem once and for all. That's why we've launched Vermont's Childcare Campaign. This campaign will empower Vermonters to advocate for the policy change and public investment needed to sustain a high-quality childcare system that meets the needs of all Vermont children and families and supports a better future for all Vermonters.
When you join Vermont's Childcare Campaign, you are joining 40,000 Vermonters who are actively calling for change. You're standing with parents, grandparents, early childhood educators, business leaders, employees, lawmakers, philanthropists, community organizations. You're taking action on behalf of all of our children, on behalf of our shared future. And you're joining a national movement in which Vermont has the opportunity to become the first state in the nation to deliver a high-quality, affordable childcare system that meets the need. With your support, together we will secure a bright future for our children, our families, our communities, and our economy. Childcare is essential, and it's time to invest in what's essential. Visit letsgrowkids.org and become a childcare champion today.
Yes, heck yes. I hope you all feel the energy and your fingerprints all over that. That is the embodiment of the campaign that we are building here together. So that is the campaign video. And I think it speaks for itself. All I would add is now's the time, folks, for us to bring this home. You know, we've laid the groundwork together. Yes, we know this childcare crisis has in some ways never been more dire, especially with the pandemic's ongoing effects on the ground today that early educators are dealing with. And yet we've never been closer to the systemic solution we've been fighting for. And that is because of all of your work, the passage, near unanimous passage of H171, last year's childcare bill, and the work that continues to keep that on track. That doesn't happen by accident. You don't get a 146-1 vote or a 30-0 vote and the governor to sign a bill like that is so significant without the work of all of you from every sector saying we have to do this. So we laid the groundwork, we put the finish line up, but this is the year, folks. We got to bring it home. This is when we say to our neighbors and our friends and our families and our lawmakers, the governor, that we mean business, because this is our chance right now. We are so close. The opportunity is before us, and we can't nibble around the edges anymore. We're going to fix this problem full on. You know, it's too important for half measures. The consequences are too dire for us not to get this right. So here we go. We can create a system of high quality, affordable, equitable childcare that will give all of our children in Vermont the chance to thrive and reach their full potential, and give our businesses the support they need for a thriving economy, and allow our communities to thrive and create the model for the nation. So let's make no small plans. Here we go. This is the year. All right. Before we talk about our policy agenda and introduce some of the new advocacy tools to support you in bringing this over the finish line in a big, big way, I want to share a short video from Congressman Peter Welch. And I just want to quickly say, he asked us, he heard about the policy briefing and asked us if he could join. Why? Because of all of you. You all put childcare on the map to the point that Congressman Welch said, hey, may I be a part of your briefing? He's been an incredible childcare champion advocating for Vermonters, as you know, in Washington. He voted for historic Build Back Better that included childcare and pre-K provisions. And he wanted to spend a minute or so addressing you all today. So we can roll the video.
2021 was a very challenging year. Challenging for everyone, but for no one more than our early childhood community and the education that you provided to our kids in very tough times. So thank you to all of the educators, all of the partners, all of the programs, all of the parents. You know, the federal government did provide funds that made a big difference with programs, with scholarships, with affordability. But the hard work was done by you, right in the community with the kids. Thank you. And what we've all learned is that our commitment to kids can't be just during COVID and a crisis. It has to be ongoing. And that's why in Washington, I'll continue to do everything I can to have funding to make certain we have affordable childcare that includes well-paid childcare workers, that we have pre-K and that early education that gets kids off to a good start. We have to continue this commitment that we know is so important to our children, their future, and our future. Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you all so much. It was a really pleasure to say hi and welcome you up top. And Sarah, I think you're next on the lineup.
I sure am. Thanks, Allie. Big thanks to Congressman Welch for taking the time to share his perspective and to reiterate for us the power of community organizing and the promise of exactly the kind of grassroots advocacy that we are participating in together right now. So great to see you all. I'm Sarah Kenny. I lead our policy work here at Let's Grow Kids, and I'm excited to be here to tell you all about our policy agenda because I am the dork. Yes, and I know you all are too, and this is the exciting stuff. So I think we're going to share a slide with our agenda, right? I particularly appreciate Representative Welch's shout out to Vermont's early childhood educators who play such an essential role in the education of our young children. Hooray for all of you who are here today. You also help mobilize our workforce and strengthen our economy. And despite their essential role, Vermont's early childhood education workforce is in crisis. So our 2022 policy agenda includes a number of initiatives that are driving towards two major goals: addressing the current early childhood education workforce crisis and continuing to lay the groundwork that we started in H171 last year that will support a transformed childcare system that meets the needs of all Vermonters. So let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing on this slide here in terms of our agenda. So as I said, it's twofold. The first is immediately responding to Vermont's early childhood educator workforce crisis. We urgently need investments to recruit and retain early childhood educators and to strengthen programs. And so we have proposed a suite of initiatives that you'll see when you dive more deeply into our legislative agenda that include retention bonuses for folks working in childcare programs, loan repayment support program expansion for early childhood educators, support with health insurance premiums for those working in childcare programs, support with childcare costs for working in childcare programs. Basically, we're trying to leverage all the opportunities we can to use the one-time funds that are available right now from the federal government and the state to be able to strengthen this essential workforce. And then while we're working on responding to that crisis in early childhood education staffing right now, we also need to continue the work that we started with H171, which became Act 45 last year, thanks to all of your amazing work. We need to continue this work to transform the system long-term. And so a lot of that looks like ensuring that the work that started last year is carrying forward and that is being fully implemented. So you'll recall that the bill last year, we created a financing study, and that's the study that's going to help us estimate what the cost of this system is that leads to those twin goals that we established together last year that the legislature put into the bill, that no family spends more than 10% of their income on childcare, and that early childhood educators are compensated fairly and on par with their colleagues in other professions. So as we move toward that, the financing study is going to estimate the cost of reaching those goals and propose financing options for the state, make some recommendations about how we can fund that system of the future. So we're going to be looking to get funding for that childcare financing study to move forward this year. It was authorized in the bill last year, but not funded yet. Another piece of continuing that transformation work is we really need to keep a close eye on the upgrade to the IT system for childcare, which is not the sexiest topic, but is so critically important as we look at the future of the system and even the changes that were implemented last year. So that IT system has still not been updated. So we are going to continue to work with all of you to make sure that that happens and as quickly as possible. We also are looking towards more investments in the Child Care Financial Assistance Program. You'll recall that's the program that supports families to access childcare in Vermont. And some really important changes were made last year in that bill that we all worked on together. And we need to continue to make progress to expand funding for the Child Care Financial Assistance Program. And then we also, lastly, in terms of the sort of long-term transformation components here, we are looking at creating a business and capacity resource center for childcare programs, whether they're for-profit or nonprofit, family childcare homes or center-based programs. We know that there's critical technical assistance that programs need to be able to run a childcare program and to be able to do some of the grant-making work that Let's Grow Kids has been engaged with and financing loans. So we're looking at putting some language into statute that will allow those services to all be offered in partnership with the state so that we can really build the capacity we need for childcare moving forward. So that's the high level of what's in our policy agenda for this year, the 2022 legislative session. And we wanted to create some space for questions. So I'm going to ask my policy team colleague, Drake Turner, to come off mute and let us know what kind of questions we've been receiving so far.
Thanks, everyone. For those of you who I haven't met before, my name's Drake and I'm the Senior Policy Manager at Let's Grow Kids. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. I also have included some links to a couple of one-pagers that are on our website that have more information about the agenda. And one chat that someone private messaged to me, Sarah, that I think might be a good place to start is you went over a lot of really ambitious goals for us this year. So what's the status of the policy agenda so far, now that we're about a month into the legislative session?
Sure, that's a great question. So yes, that was the list of all the things we want to do this year, right? That we're going to be working together to convince the legislature and administration to support. And the good news is that we're off to a good start so far. So the legislature every session starts the year with a bill known as the Budget Adjustment Act. And that's sort of like a mid-course correction for the state's budget year. So the state's budget year starts in July. and runs through June. And so the legislature comes back every year in January and takes a look at the current state fiscal year budget and says, what needs truing up? What did we miss the first time around? And the good news is that that bill is under consideration right now. And the House just passed it last week, sorry. It feels like a year ago. So we're on legislative time now. But at the end of last week, they passed the Budget Adjustment Act and sent it over to the Senate. And the version that the House passed contains funding for the finance study, which is great. And it contains a $6 million investment in one-time funds to do an initial round of workforce retention bonuses for early childhood educators. So that would allow the state to be directing about $1,000 per person out to folks working in childcare programs to try to help stabilize the workforce and retain folks who are currently in those roles. So that's the good news. The bill is now in the Senate, and we are probably going to be asking all of you for support in making sure that the Senate continues to prioritize those funds. And then the budget, like the next fiscal year's state budget, is the next thing that the legislature is turning their attention to. And so we'll be continuing to advocate for the rest of these investments in the FY23 state budget.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. A couple more questions have come in. So Judith is wondering what the biggest roadblocks to success are this year.
Oh, what a good question, Judith. I would say the good news is that there is incredible attention to childcare. There is incredible momentum, and that is directly thanks to the work of all 108 of you on this call right now, and all of your friends and colleagues and partners all around the state. You cannot go anywhere where legislators are where people are not talking about the need to invest in childcare right now, which is, it gives me hope that folks are seeing so clearly the link between early childhood education and the childcare workforce and every other workforce in the state and our state's healthy economic development. Our biggest roadblocks, I think, are just the sheer scope of need right now. There are so many needs for Vermonters. And there is a lot of one-time funding available right now, thanks to the federal investments and also thanks to really strong state revenues that are creating some one-time funds available. But there is just the depth of need, I think, can sometimes feel really overwhelming for legislators. So that's a challenge, but I would say it's also an opportunity for us to be continuing to make those connections between why childcare, why now, and the fact that investments in childcare support every other workforce to be able to be in the workforce. And they continue, the investments in childcare promote our economic health. They promote health and safety and high quality spaces for young children and families who are struggling so much right now. So it's both, I would say, a potential roadblock and also a challenge to all of us to just continue making those connections, continue to keep childcare at the forefront.
Thanks, Sarah. We also have a question about IT. So Kara wrote in the chat that she's taken on a position overseeing 12 programs that use BFIS. That sounds like a really big job, Kara. So she's wondering, she has some thoughts about the system, wondering who to contact to help. I think this might be a good opportunity, Sarah, to give a little more of an IT update for folks.
Sure, yes, it's Drake and my favorite topic is the IT system. Because it is so important. And so the state is running right now on the Bright Futures Information System, which has been in place for a very long time and is incredibly outdated and antiquated, which Kara may be experiencing in her work with BFIS. So last year, I'm pretty sure that the commissioner of the Department of Children and Families described the system last year as being held together with twigs and duct tape, which was probably not too far off, it being Vermont. So last year, the legislature appropriated funding to replace the IT system at the Child Development Division, which is wonderful. And that process has been taking a lot longer than anybody hoped it would. So that IT system, we are still waiting for it to launch. The administration has gone back to a lot of partners who gave feedback in the initial rounds and will be working with stakeholders to try to work out a couple of final bugs. They want to make sure that when the first module launches, that it has all the functionality that they need. So it's probably a little more deep in the weeds than you wanted, but the important thing is that the IT system, they are working on launching the new one, and I think we can all continue to keep the pressure on to make sure that it does what we need it to do, that it gets in place quickly, and most importantly, that the administration is thinking about ways to be supporting families and early childhood education programs in the meantime, because all of those investments from the child care bill last year into child care financial assistance can't go into effect until they have the new IT system. So we're really pressuring the administration to think about ways to be supporting rate increases or whatever else they can do in the meantime.
Great. And then I think I've seen a couple of questions come in that are kind of focused around workforce. So there's a question about how the legislative agenda moves forward benefits for childcare workers sort of in the long term versus one-time incentives. And then Kira also asked a question about any opportunities to create internships to support staffing shortages. Maybe we can talk about sort of the short-term, long-term piece of our workforce proposals this year.
Sure. Yes. So in the short term, one of the proposals that I think I didn't mention in my quick overview is a recruitment campaign through the Vermont Association for the Education of Young Children. Our partners are there who run apprenticeship programs and agree with all of us that we need a workforce of the future, right? We need a stronger pipeline. And a lot of folks, including many people here, have been doing that work for a lot of years, but we want to try to bolster those efforts at the Vermont AUIC. And be able to provide them a dedicated staff person who would be doing that sort of pipeline recruitment program. And so that's one of our short-term asks, is to set that up towards the long term. I just want to acknowledge that you'll notice that our legislative agenda this year does not call for raising wages for early childhood educators across the board. And that's because, as we talked about last year, our 3-year policy agenda was last year we sort of set the wheels in motion, right? This year, the legislature is studying what the cost is going to be and figuring out what a financing mechanism might be. And then next year, in year 3, is when we're coming to the legislature with our big ask, right, for dedicated revenue to solve this once and for all. So this year, we're sort of in this in-between space a little bit, where we need to keep moving all of those initiatives forward. We're driving toward a systemic investment that will allow higher compensation for early childhood educators across the board next year. And in the meantime, we want to leverage all the one-time funds that we can to be trying to support the workforce until we get to that place where we can pay people what they're worth and provide benefits. I don't know if I answered all that question, Drake.
I thought it was great. So there are a couple other questions coming in. We would at this point kind of need to move on to the next part of the agenda. So for those folks that we haven't been able to answer your questions, we'll definitely follow up. But it's so great to have a lot of interaction and to be hearing such really thoughtful questions from this group. So thanks a lot, Sarah. I think you can wrap up. Thanks for answering these questions.
Great. Thank you all. And if you have more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the field team. You can get connected to all of them and we'll get answers to you as well. And so to echo Allie's words earlier, it's going to take all of us working together to transform childcare in Vermont. But I know we can do it because you all have done amazing things already. And so right now, I'm really excited to introduce my colleague and community organizer extraordinaire, Anna Gephardt, to discuss exactly how we're going to do this.
Great, thanks, Sarah. And I'm so excited to be here. I love seeing all the familiar faces and even more excited to see some of the new names and faces here in this meeting. For those of you who do know me, you know that I am so passionate about bringing people together to make collective change and to work towards a future that's truly equitable for children and families in Vermont. And to one of the questions in the chat that Tim asked, how can we accelerate LGK's work and the incredible work of childcare advocates to date? I'm here to show you some of the great things you can do to keep the momentum going, to keep the pressure on. And so, you know, we got a lot of information about the policy agenda, and advocating is so critical, but it is going to take more than just advocacy. We really need people power. It's going to take all of us working together to achieve our goals this session and next year in 2023, when we're going to be asking for serious public investments. It's going to take all of us emailing our legislators and the administration. It's going to take all of us honing our stories to share on social media, in legislative testimony, in interviews with reporters. It's going to take all of us organizing in our communities, our friends, families, neighbors, coworkers, and beyond, to really achieve the strong and stable childcare system that all Vermonters deserve. We have an amazing new advocacy tool that I'm going to unveil in just a minute, but first, I want to take a quick moment to introduce you to a couple of our active childcare champs and prove to you that your voice is powerful and show what can be accomplished when you use your voice to advocate for Vermont's children and families. So first, I'd like to introduce Julia Rogers, who has recorded a video for us. She's going to talk to us about sharing your story with legislators, whether that's in an email, during a meeting, or for testimony. Julia is the founding director of En route Consulting and a mom from Stowe. She recently shared her childcare story with legislators at the Lamoille County Childcare Legislator event. So, yep, thanks, Rhea. Let's hear from Julia.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I couldn't be there live. My name is Julia Rogers. I live in Stowe, Vermont, and I'm a proud supporter of Let's Grow Kids and their mission to bring affordable childcare as well as paid family medical leave to all Vermonters. And I want to tell you a little bit today about my childcare story and also what my experience has been like speaking to legislators. So first of all, I am a parent of 2 young children. They're now 5 and 7. And I, like many working parents, have struggled over the years not only to find childcare, but also it makes a huge dent in the family income. So a lot of what I talk about when I talk about my childcare story is my experience being a small business owner, my experience finding and securing childcare, the struggles therein, and also acknowledging how lucky I was to have family support, to find a childcare center that I thought provided extremely high quality care for my children, and also the importance of the childcare tax credit and the childcare reimbursement credit from the state in making childcare more affordable. Now, I've delivered remarks to legislators on several occasions and have spoken publicly about it, and I would really, really encourage you to share your story too. It's not as intimidating as you think. They're just people, and most importantly, they need to hear your story. Data is great, data has its place, but stories are what spur people to action. So you have a story, we all have stories about how we need childcare and how the struggles and challenges that we face as parents and as caregivers will affect change at the legislative level. So don't be afraid to tell your story. People will want to hear it, and I hope you can join us in this effort to bring these resources and services to people across our state. Thank you so much. Bye.
That was so inspiring. She is right. Stories really not only engage people's heads, but also engage their hearts and remind them how critical this is and the critical support that our families and early educators need right now. Next up, we have Erin Wessel, who is a parent from Brattleboro who organized with families in her community to keep her childcare program open. She took action and was able to see the local impact and is now working to make change on a state level. Erin's with us live and will share her inspiring story. So let's hear from Erin.
Hi, everyone. I'm not intimidated at all, all of you, but thank you so much for welcoming me and letting me share my story. As Anna mentioned, Erin Wessel, and I'm a full-time working parent here in Brattleboro, Vermont, Windham County, the southern part of the state. My child's care program was closed in late December of 2020, leaving our family and many other families without an option for our child's needs during the first winter of this lovely ongoing pandemic we're going through. We were notified in October of 2020 that the program would be closed, which left us and others scrambling to find openings in Windham County for childcare, which of course there were only a handful. Desperate to keep our program open, not only because I needed childcare, but also because it is my child's community. I organized current and former parents and community members around this issue. And I think the most amazing thing was the incredible public outpouring of support and disbelief that over 50 families in Windham County would be affected by this closure with no other option. Fortunately for our situation, a new operator for the program was identified and was able to fairly seamlessly take over the program without much disruption to our children's care, despite some of our beloved staff moving on. And so in this process, I learned about Let's Grow Kids and their mission to re-envision the childcare system so that affordable, high-quality childcare is accessible to all families. I became a volunteer because their mission envisions that parents like me won't have to worry about the stability of the care community for their children, and because I'm an advocate for early childhood education programs, their teachers and staff, and most importantly, for the importance of stable, sustainable early childhood education for all children. Since then, I have been active in my community in Brattleboro, getting the word out about childcare campaign, and I've asked people to sign on petitions and join local action team. And most recently, I also helped organize the childcare legislative event for my local action team so that legislators could hear stories from other folks in our community that are struggling as well. And it was very inspiring, actually, to hear from business community and childcare providers and board members. It's just a wonderful outpouring of stories like we just heard are compelling. Childcare is essential to Vermonters. Attracting and retaining our workforce is key to the success of our state's future. I'm excited to help with this mission because every family deserves access to stable, high-quality childcare. And when we work together, we can make change, which was amazing. So I hope that you can join me and this momentum to continue and make this vision a reality for Vermont.
Thank you so much, Erin. That was great. Thank you. I love that you followed up from Julia, because this is just another example of you sharing your story with everyone here, maybe even stepping out on a bit of a limb. You know, it can be nerve-wracking, and sometimes just taking that step and sharing and inspiring others can really make all the difference. And your story really shows us that. You saw there was a need, you took action, and you were able to achieve so much in your local community. And I'm so excited to be working with you, you know, on this statewide mission to really achieve this for all children and all families. So thank you so much. We have one more volunteer story to share. And this one's another recorded video from Beth Workman, who is a director of a local childcare program. Beth has been a childcare advocate in her work with children for years and has recently stepped up to organize in her community and was inspired by how easy it was to build momentum for the childcare campaign. Her work collecting signatures has had a really big impact. So let's hear from her about how that went.
Hi, everyone. I'm Beth Workman. I'm the director of Robin's Nest Children's Center in Burlington, Vermont. I've been at Robin's Nest for about 20 years. I've worked as the infant teacher, the preschool teacher, toddler teacher. So in those almost 20 years, I've been very busy here as an educator. I continue to be an educator. And as a director, I definitely have a different perspective of what it's like to be in early childhood education. A little while ago, I got really excited because I got an email asking for volunteers and suggestions about where we could possibly petition for Let's Grow Kids. And I was getting very excited for the Underhill Harvest Market, which happens in my hometown of Underhill. And I thought, wow, you know, I've never seen Let's Grow Kids there, but what a great place to you know, chat with young families who are my neighbors. So I suggested the Harvest Market, and it was a really great event, as it always is. I love going to Harvest Market. And I went with my field manager, it was really easy. She met me at my house. We walked over to the event. We had a bunch of petitions with us. And at first I was a little bit nervous about how this would go. What am I going to ask families? And in just a couple of minutes, Shayla, the field manager, field specialist, helped me with how I could approach families, which was really easy. You know, pretty much anybody who was walking through the event with a young child, we would go and chat with about childcare. And guess what? Everybody who was at that event with the young children had a story or an experience or something to say about childcare. So it worked out just perfectly. And I got really into it. We spent a long time doing it, actually a little bit longer than we had planned, because it was so much fun. And at one point I was seeing people who I knew, and I said, you know, Shayla, I think I've got this. We split up for a little while and I did my own canvassing, and we ended up, I think we got close to 80 or 90 petitions signed. I had some incredibly great conversations with people. I ran into other early childhood educators, which was really cool. I ran into a lot of families, grandparents. Almost everybody was on the side of asking for higher wages for early educators, or needing to lower the price for tuition and make early childhood education a little bit more affordable for families. So the conversations that I got was really a good experience for me. I really felt great about the work that I did volunteering. I would totally do it again. I was actually a little bit nervous about like canvassing at first, because my expectation was that it would be at a table. And that's just not how it worked for this event. And I think that I kind of liked walking through the event and canvassing, though I really would be happy to do it at a table as well. I can see how both scenarios would work really well as a volunteer. This is definitely something that I think would be very easy for folks to do. I highly recommend it. I think that you'll learn so much about your neighbors or people who are in your community. So that was a lot of fun. And, you know, this is just basically how it worked. It was, you know, I think that you can do an hour or two, and that's enough. If you're like me, you might spend a little bit longer. And I got a t-shirt, so that was really great. If you can get a t-shirt, highly recommend it. And I encourage everyone to volunteer if you can. Thanks so much.
Beth is so great. I love her enthusiasm. And Beth also recently facilitated her local action team meeting. And this is a slide of the Rutland County Action Team. Throughout the year, there are opportunities to gather with other passionate childcare advocates in your region to plan and execute local events and actions. And in this photo, you see the Rutland County Action Team hosting a Zoom meeting with their local legislators. There are so many different ways you can support this campaign, and there's really room for everybody in their own unique way to get involved and keep the momentum going. So, like I said, there really are so many ways you can support this campaign and be a true champion for Vermont's children. And in order to make it as easy as humanly possible, we've created a new action center. So now it is my turn to share my screen. So give me just a moment here as I make sure I have everything lined up for y'all. And I would actually appreciate it if one of my colleagues might like to share the link to this in the chat in a moment. But here it is on the Let's Grow Kids Action Network website. We have a new action center. Here on this page, you can find everything streamlined. It's kind of your one-stop shop for all the actions you can take to build momentum. We've tried to make it really simple with the top priority actions at the top of the page. This will be updated regularly. Each action has a timestamp on it, so you can, if you just have a few minutes, you can come here and know that you can make the most impact with your time. So we'll start, I'll just give you a quick tour. The top action right now is to sign on to our 2022 policy agenda. Even if you've signed a petition in the past, if you haven't added your name since January, I encourage you to click here, sign on. It takes 30 seconds, and it really shows our lawmakers that people in Vermont really want them to prioritize these critical investments right now. Second is email your legislators. So after you've signed on, you can click here for a really easy template for the top message we need legislators to hear right now. And as Sarah mentioned, the Budget Adjustment Act was just passed by the House. So this email thanks your personal House members for the work they did to pass some of those investments in that particular part of the legislature. And I wanted to highlight joining us for an event. When you click here, you come to our Advocacy Events on the Action Network's website. And this is where the top events you can join are listed. And right now, all of the local county action teams are ready for you to register for the February meeting, at which you can plan with your local community for an action in the first week of March. Starting the week of town meeting day, we'll be organizing local virtual actions. So you can be part of that by clicking here and registering for an action team. And on the Action Center, you'll see a number of other actions you can take, including volunteering your time, sharing your story, participating in sharing things on social media, and giving a gift. And then you have additional resources down here. So you should find just about anything you need to take action and continuing to build the momentum. I'm hoping we've got that link in the chat now. So go ahead and click to, looks like Shayla added our Thank Your House Representatives link right there, so you can send a quick message to your legislators. And while you're all going ahead and clicking on that on your computer, on your smartphone, you can take action right now while I'm talking. And I'm also going to add a direct link just straight to the Action Center. And I would encourage you all to bookmark that page, check it regularly. Like I said, we'll be updating that with live actions. And that way, if you have not yet signed on to the policy agenda, you can do that right now. And if you're ready to check your calendar for February and join your local action team, you can get registered for the next event. I'd love to, while people are clicking around, I can see folks kind of their eyes looking around. If you want to just share, if you've already signed on to the policy agenda and you're kind of just doodling around while others are clicking through and signing, you can add an emoji to your Zoom box right now, maybe a heart or a thumbs up that you've already taken some action. Awesome. Love it. Loving to see all the engagement. And I see we've got some folks writing right into the chat. They've done all of the above. These are some active action takers. So exciting. So the 2022 policy agenda is our focus over the next few months, and that is reflected in the current top actions. Additionally, we have some exciting and big goals for this year and next. So we're preparing to build the campaign, and we're getting in gear. Like I said, bookmark the Action Center on your computer or your smartphone and check in regularly to be the first to know how you can engage. And it's really going to take all of us leaning in, driving us closer to our goal. So thank you so much for coming today. We're here to support you, so please don't hesitate to reach out to me or your local field manager with any questions about what you learned today. and how to use your voice for positive change for our children, families, early educators, and our state's future. I'm going to wrap up my portion of this event, and we're going to maybe even end a little early. We were hoping to really respect your time tonight or today. We're just barely afternoon, but we are hosting another event tonight at 8 p.m., hopefully after bedtime for folks with young kids. So if you know anyone you think needs to hear this information, please encourage them to go to the Action Center and sign up for our 8 p.m. event. We'll be sending out more information about that later today. So thank you so much, everybody.